All right, 7 o'clock.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call the September 19th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We'll just quickly review the agenda. Most of the time tonight will be available for public comment about the town plan that the Planning Commission, with the help of David White, has drafted and published for review and comment for about a month now. We will approve our minutes. We'll actually open a public hearing on the town plan, close the hearing on the town plan, and then the Planning Commission will continue its work to discuss revisions to the town plan, other business, wrap up for next meetings, executive session if needed, and then we'll adjourn. Does anybody have any changes to the agenda? No. Okay, very good. Welcome to those of you who are joining us from the public. And we will invite public comment on any topic if you would like to share anything with the Planning Commission, but just knowing that we will have a certain time during the meeting to talk about the town plan. Does anyone from the public joining us this evening have anything they'd like to share with the Planning Commission? And if you're on the Zoom, thank you for joining. And if you would use the raise hand feature so that we know you'd like to say something in the meeting. Okay, hearing no public comment, then we'll move on to approve the minutes of September 5th. Do you have a motion? Approve. Eric, thank you. Second.
Second.
Chris, thank you. So do we have any edits or clarifications to the minutes September 5th?
It was very verbatim.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Nancy. We're very fortunate to have a recording secretary who's able to join us remotely, and we do appreciate our very comprehensive minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes for September 5th, say aye.
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 Any abstentions?
Heidi.
Heidi?
Yeah, I was out. Sorry.
Okay. Any nays? Okay. The next item is the public hearing on the town plan. So I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Move to open public hearing
On
public comment on the official plan. Is that all I need to say? The town plan. Draft town plan.
Okay.
Move to open for public comment on the current draft of the town plan.
Thank you. Perfect. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sarah, David, did we do that right? Okay, we have to make sure we do it right. Sarah, thank you for second. Okay, so we will.
Do we have to approve it now?
Oh yeah, all those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so just a couple of remarks. We're going to, we asked Linda if she would provide a brief update on the town plan, the process that we've followed to get where we are today, and some highlights from the plan, especially since we're very happy to have some people participating that maybe haven't been able to participate before, or they haven't participated in a few months, just to get everybody on the same page. And then we will listen to public comments, and we will structure that, and we'll explain that as we are ready for that section. Okay, so Linda.
All right, great. Thanks everyone for being here tonight, and thanks to everyone who has taken the time not just to be here today, but has read the town plan, because it's not super short. So thank you for investing your time and energy in the process.
I should have better introduced you. Linda Blosh is the town planner for Jericho. So she is a member of the staff here and is a professional planner.
I'm going to start by sharing, before I get to the presentation, I just want to share this document that I handed out to the planning commission members who are here. And this is a work plan that Susan started and she and I kind of developed as we went through the process of creating this town plan. And it has on here all of the different dates where we've had either a planning commission meeting where we discussed the town plan or a community and public engagement event. And we have pretty much made it to the bottom of this first page. The highlighted area here, we're at September 19th. This is the planning commission public hearing. And that is event number 19, if I counted correctly. So there's been quite a lot of effort and a lot of work that has gone into this process, and we are getting pretty close to the end. So I just wanted to share that to start off with. And I have a quick slide presentation that I'm going to go through here, just kind of giving folks that may not have been to all the meetings throughout the process to give them an overview of the work that we've done and the events that we've had and what we've heard. Can you see my screen on the Zoom?
Maybe
Yes,
Sabina,
we
can you
can, yeah,
confirm that you're
yeah, we can see it, but it's not in the presentation mode.
It's in the presenter mode.
It's in the work mode, so I think you have to go to down at the bottom, that slide, the thing that's at the bottom right next to the toggle screen, I think, the thing that looks like a
so you're
standing.
sharing a different screen?
Yeah. Sure. Is it okay if I just run it in this mode? Because I don't want to risk messing it up.
I think it's fine. We can read it, and it's
Okay.
got the information.
I only have notes on a few slides.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so as I said, we're just going to go through some quick slides to review the process that we went through to develop the draft. I'm going to go over some community participation highlights and things that we've heard from the community through our outreach and engagement efforts. I'm going to talk a little bit about high level concepts of what's in the draft, and then we're going to go over next steps, and then we'll move into the public comment portion of the hearing. So this is an overview of the timeline and the steps that the planning commission has gone through in the process of updating the plan. So initially, it started out with reviewing the old town plan, and planning commission members met with David White, who's been our consultant working with us throughout the process to go through and find out, like, identify sections that are important and should stay, things that were outdated and need to be removed or updated, and things that were missing that we wanted to make sure got added in to the next version of the town plan. And so that started at the end of last year and went through about February. And then we began a pretty robust public outreach and engagement. We started that in January, and it's been ongoing, continuing through to tonight and going forward. Next step was the planning commission had work sessions at their planning commission meetings between February and June. And we had one meeting where we tackled each topic that we're going to be talking about in the town plan. And we finally got to this summer where the first draft of the town plan was developed, and we've been working on reviewing and editing that since June. And then we're here today at the planning commission hearing. And after today, next steps anticipated to go through the fall and the winter are select board hearings. There'll be 2 hearings that the select board will hold for the town plan, and ultimately the adoption of the town plan, which is anticipated toward the end of the year. Sabina, do you have your hand up for a question?
Well, I just wanted to let you know, I don't know what slide. Are you going through a series of slides right now? Because we still see number 1 on Zoom.
You still see number 1.
Yeah, I can't tell if you're moving forward as you speak, but it's not showing on Zoom.
Okay, I should be on slide 3. Hold on.
Maybe it's worth it to try to
Yeah, let me
share the.
If you go up to the top where it says slideshow, you should be able to get into it that way.
That's what we're
Next-
seeing here. Sabina, we're seeing the full slideshow mode, so it's the Zoom is sharing a different screen.
I see. You could send it to me real quick, Linda, and I could share it from the Zoom. I don't know if it's worth that time, but
Sorry, everyone, hang tight. No, it's on your head, that's. what I have to say.
This is the Mount Mansfield TV guy. There's a thing when you're sharing that will tell it which screen you want it to share. You might be able to, I think it's at the top. I work from home mostly, so yes. Sorry, guys.
No, I closed it. Yeah, let me open it again.
thank you, Tom.
Sorry, thanks for bearing with me. And then I want to screen share it. I want to go to share.
And
I
that's
want to
what,
share this screen.
No, I think you want to
No,
open
Start the
it
presentation first.
you want to put it in slideshow mode
Okay.
and then share it.
But now I can't see the Zoom.
Yeah.
Now, now I have multiple screens.
Because you have multiple screens. So.
No, I only had one.
You know, when you go into your slideshow mode, it shows it on multiple screens.
oh, this is an improvement though. This was not,
Did I share it from here?
So just go to slideshow,
This right here?
presentation.
Sabina, what are you seeing now?
I just see Linda at her laptop, not the screen.
Yeah, I haven't shared. it yet.
Okay,
Not presented as I'm sure.
yeah, so it's not in the PowerPoint, it's on the computer in the Zoom link that you have to decide what version.
Yeah, but she said it wasn't.
Wasn't advancing.
I think
No,
it
it
wasn't
wasn't
changing
advancing.
slides.
Or you can just email it to Sabina and she can present it.
And then just.
Trina, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I see your screen now, and now it says overview town plan.
Maybe this is good enough.
Maybe I'll just go through.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry about all that. We'll just go from here. I won't try to present it in the presentation though. So this is the slide for those of you on the Zoom that couldn't see that I had just talked through outlining the steps that the planning commission went through in the process over the past 8 or 9 months. All right, and this sort of captures the different ways and opportunities that we've had to reach out to folks and do public engagement. We had in-person events, we had online outreach, and we also had in-print events. So town meeting table, we had a community forum at Mount Mansfield High School. The planning commission had a table at the farmers market twice during the summer, and then the work sessions that I mentioned earlier. And online, we had front porch forum posts, we had online surveys. We had a version of the community forum that we posted online for several weeks after the in-person event. We updated the town website with progress on the town plan. And then in print, we had posters hung around town. There were newspaper articles about the town plan update. We had yard signs around, and we had articles in the school newsletters. All right, so the next few slides are going to be familiar to some of you who have watched and attended a lot of the meetings that we had to summarize feedback that we got. And so what I'm showing here is a word cloud, and a word cloud are where the words that were most frequently used in responses to questions are displayed in the largest print. So this question that we asked was, what keeps you in Jericho? And the most responses, the most popular responses we got were things like the neighbors, the community, the geographic location, the natural areas, the schools. So those are the things that people like about Jericho and that keep them here. Some of the comments and feedback we got to the question, what would make you leave Jericho, is that some folks are concerned about overdevelopment, tax increases, if they can't age in place or stay in Jericho as they get older, and lacking affordability. And then some of the challenges that folks said that they see as facing Jericho today and in the future are the need for affordable housing, having smaller, denser housing, having better bike pedestrian connections, and continuing to protect our healthy ecosystems. And then the characteristics that the feedback said the most important in Jericho that we should protect are the rural character, the schools, the high quality schools that we have, parks and natural resources, and locations like businesses and village centers. And then this question was asking about if there's any new or different opportunities that folks would like to see in Jericho, and the responses that we got here were better bike and pedestrian connections, zoning, smaller, denser housing, business opportunities like restaurants and more mixed use development. And then some folks said they would like to see an indoor rec center or a swimming pool. And so we collected all of this data and feedback, and we needed to kind of tie together what we heard and summarize it. And so 5 different themes seem to be emerging as a result of all the community feedback. So we kind of divided them up into the 5 different chapters that are in the current version of volume 1 of the draft town plan. And so we had a strong need for more housing, a lot of different housing types and different price points, and specifically needing more housing for young families, middle and lower income, and seniors. Those were needs that were not being met in rental housing. Needing more opportunities for businesses and growing the economy at a village scale, a small scale that's appropriate for a rural town. Continuing to protect our natural resources, open lands, forests, wetlands, and streams, and building a better connected community. So those are topics like infrastructure, investing and prioritizing in wastewater, bike and pedestrian paths, and growth in and around the villages. And in order to accomplish all of this, we have heard that folks would like to support a more effective community. So growing the capacity of the town government so they can be better prepared to address some of these challenges. Okay, and here are the highlights of how the town plan attempts to address the comments that we've heard. So challenges, again, housing is not meeting the current demands, and the other primary challenge is that climate change is requiring us to adapt new approaches. So some of the goals and priorities that we've identified are protecting our natural resources, facilitating housing development, investing in and around village centers to enable housing and business growth at a village scale, better connections in the community with bike and pedestrian networks, renewable energy and modern resilient infrastructure, and increasing the capacity of the town government so that we can accomplish the goals and move Jericho forward. And this kind of shows the dates of the process that we've gone through once we received the first version of the town plan draft. So we got that on July 18th. That was the first planning commission meeting where we reviewed the initial version of the town draft. And then we had a couple of meetings in August where we continued to receive feedback. We had committee chairs that were invited to the meeting and gave us feedback on their specific topic areas of expertise. In mid-August, we had incorporated some of those comments and feedback, and we had a second draft that was released and reviewed at the planning commission meeting. And since then, we've been have ongoing reviewing and edits continuing into tonight. And so the feedback that we have heard between August and through the evening tonight will be incorporated into a third draft of the town plan. which we'll be receiving within the next couple of weeks. And then after the hearing tonight, the tentative plan for what's next is going to be September 26th, a special meeting of the planning commission to review the third draft or parts of the third draft. October 3rd is our regular planning commission meeting where we're hoping that the third draft will be approved by the planning commission to be forwarded to the select board. October 5th is when we're hoping the select board will receive the draft, and then November and December will be when the select board has their public hearings and reviews the draft, and then any edits and revisions can still be made up until December when the select board will adopt the new town plan. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Susan, and we're going to start the public comment portion of the meeting.
Okay. So we thought it would be helpful if we could learn from people that are here tonight, specifically parts of the plan that align with your values that you support, either based on your review of the plan or what you just heard from Linda tonight or other meetings and interactions that you've had. And then also parts that you think need improvement or changes. And what we'd like to do is organize it so that first we will call on people that are here with us in the room and giving kind of first dibs to people who have not yet participated in the process, meaning have not yet come to a planning commission meeting and shared their thoughts with us. And then we'll go to the people online if you are a new participant, and then we'll reverse the order to just try to be fair and to try to hear from everyone as much as we can. We don't have so many people here, so we have a lot of time. I think we can provide each person about 5 minutes for your comments. We will run a timer just to make sure that we can hear from everyone. And knowing from Linda that the drafting and editing is all very much in process, what would be most helpful for us is to hear your thoughts at the kind of big picture, long-term level, although you're free to share any comments that you want with the Planning Commission. I would also like to say that we recognize that you're here because you care. And we also recognize that there's a lot of people who care who can't be here because they have kids, they have other responsibilities, they don't want to drive at night, whatever it is. And we're very mindful of that. And we're also mindful of the fact that we have processed literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. And so what you have to share with us, we welcome that, but we want to make room for everyone. We also recognize that a lot of people don't like public speaking. A lot of people don't come to planning commission meetings all the time. And some people are new to town and other people have lived here for 30 years. And we are extremely mindful that it takes a lot for you to come here and share your comments with us. And we want to hear from everyone. Does anybody have anything to add to that? Okay, so first we invite people who are here with us in the room, and I hope you've signed in. If you haven't signed in, if you could sign in on the way out. If you would like to make a comment about the town plan, let us know. Jeff.
Hi, I'm
Unfortunately, you have to come forward to the table so that you can use the microphone so everyone can hear you.
Hi, I'm Jeff York. I live on Lee River Road. I'm also the head of the Development Review Board on the library board here. I just came to listen tonight, but since you're asking for comments, I'll give you comments. Always got opinions. I think it's a great opinion. I really like the way it kind of thinks about, the big challenges that we have. And I like the concentration of development in the town centers. And the thought has gone into, that it needs to do that, the infrastructure. Certainly something we see in the DRB is that, that wastewater problem that causes people to, create a lot of the sprawl. And it's great to see that being thought about in terms of, how to really support that kind of development into the town centers and the connectivity between those centers. I make one comment about the town government, and I read that about changing the size of the select board, and I didn't go to your meeting, so I didn't get all the discussion, but just reading the plan, it's not really a very convincing case for those changes there. I'm not really sure. I mean, I noticed that they were in the plan really early, and I don't know if they're like boilerplate or if there's a real feel that that's a powerful, part of the overall plan. If I just have another second, the thing that I think a lot about is, climate scenarios, like what would we do if, 50,000 people wanted to move to Jericho? I mean, if you get huge numbers of climate refugees, what would you actually do with them? What would you actually, how would you clean up that much wastewater? Would Jericho just, price itself out, we're already starting to see neighbors moving here for climate reasons. And I think that's going to be, a real issue. And then also, that we got lucky last time in terms of those big rains. What would have happened to Jericho if we had gotten the 9 inches of rain in Jericho? Because it's only a matter of time before we get, 9 inches of rain in Jericho. And what does our infrastructure and roads need to do to survive that? So, I'm supposed to listen to my comments.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You're looking at me.
I am. Well, you're a new participant.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, I've been here a very long time. I'm Bill Brzee. I live off of Barber Farm. I've lived there since about 98. I'm married to the chair of the planning commission. I have no bias whatsoever. First of all, I wanted to thank the planning commission members for your long nights and hard work and volunteerism. I really do appreciate it, and I see it firsthand, so I encourage everyone to do that. As for the town plan, I remember back to the old town plan. I don't know why I read it, but I did a long time ago, and I think that I liked the protection of open spaces and the evolution of development in the town centers, and I think this plan really is an evolution of that. I think you guys tackled protecting natural spaces with the natural overlays in the interim. I think it's just smarter and evolved, and I like the emphasis on open spaces while at the same time putting our money where our mouths are. So yeah, money where our mouths are, and supporting actual infrastructure in the town centers. To Jeff's comments, we're going to need the infrastructure. Let's do it. And that was a hard transition for me because I'm cheap, but I think that is the right thing to do. I see my own children are approaching the age when it would be nice for them to be able to move here. And unless we act decisively and intelligently and with a stiff spine, we're not going to have places for ourselves to retire and our children to live. So I think that this town plan is an excellent evolution of that. I would encourage only one thing, and that is that the commission members work to make it work on brevity, and then that everyone read it. So thank you very much for the time.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna try to be brief. I'd like to thank the commission and everyone who worked on it. I think it's a tremendous effort. As I'm sure you know, I have a few disagreements. And I'd like to be succinct about it, but I've talked to a lot of people that are not able to be here.
To the audience.
A lot of people that represent what I would call missing middle, the citizens of Jericho.
We all know who you are, but would you mind stating your name? We do have a lot of people on the phone. Thank you.
So, first, the presentation of the town planning, which I've gone in and pulled excerpts from, it's very difficult to give you feedback because the presentation is predominantly what I call sales and marketing as compared to substance. And yet when the town plan is used, it is substance. The court doesn't care what color you have. They don't care what the pictures are. They're looking for what do the words say. And that's where my challenge is. If we want to build a resilient community and we listen to all the discussion about global warming and everything, the first thing you have to do is to get real. Most of the natural areas that are discussed are in fact not natural areas. A good portion of them are formed by malpractice, if you will, back in the old land management, whether it was farming, building roads, beaver dams, whatever. And as a person who learned how to drive a shovel at a very early age and to use a rake, I know that human beings can do better work than the absence of application of skills and balance. An engineer and a good land manager can build better, resilient community safety, security, and life quality than that which people call natural. Most of what we had came from a glacier, followed by all of the other things that have happened. So if I want to mitigate the tremendous damage that's being done, I used to scuba dive at Lake Champlain. I don't even want to swim in it anymore. This flooding that's happened, I thought we'd get smart after Irene. The tremendous damage, more damage was done in 3 days than's been done by our society in the past 100 years. Just imagine all of the pollutants that ended up when you swamp all of those gas stations, all of those sewage treatment plants, all those parking lots, all those factories, all that storage, all that stuff ended up in Champlain water's drinking supply. So we worry about cancer, we worry about children. We're not doing anything to save our natural environment because we're so worried. Oh my God, that wetland, that's a miniature disconnected wetland. Let's go in and quadruple the size of the wetland to capture the upland water to prevent it from going downstream and flooding. So when we talk about natural, we should be talking about what we can do to mitigate the damage that's been done by many natural resources. Expand and build ponds and wetlands. That's what we should be talking about doing. We put all this emphasis on preservation. We don't have enough and we need more. At least 3 times more difficult to build infrastructure where there's already existing development. If I go into one of our existing communities and I want to add sewer, I want to add water, I want to put fire protection, it's at least 3 times more expensive, extremely disruptive, and it creates all types of environmental problems. It's much easier for us to create resources where nothing currently exists. I've advocated for years to this commission that we should be doing resource-based planning, which looks at what the resources that are there. And I'll go back to one of my frequent things, the Balch property, which is being developed just north of the intersection of Brown's Trace and 15. During that presentation, they said the water table was at 35 feet and they had wonderful granular soils and gravel soils and sands. that area, that's a scenic vista, could have been developed had we moved as a community, acting as a community, and become the natural resource area from Joe's all the way out there for septic. And I've built those systems, and if you want to see one that's similar to that, go over off Morgan Road and look at the new development. But all we have to do is put pump stations along Route 15 with gravity feeds and put the effluent, after it's already been treated by the septic tanks and filtering and other stuff, because when we use the modern land-based septic systems, you can almost drink the water when it arrives at the sewage treatment.
So Jim,
Yes,
that was 5 minutes.
thank you.
So your time's up
Okay.
and we're gonna hear from other people. And if we have more time, we can come back. But
Okay,
you can
and
also
I'll leave
always-
you with one comment in case I'm not able to speak later on. I see nothing about a dedicated town center. That's an essential component to the proper management and development of Jericho, where you can capture funding, planning, and opportunity. And that opportunity exists here in Jericho, and this document is completely devoid of anything relating to doing that work project.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll go to the people online onto the Zoom. So if you would like to share some comments or feedback with the Planning Commission, if you would use the raise hand function, which is in the Zoom, usually on the lower right-hand part of your screen under something called reactions. You click on reactions, get the raise hand option. So does anybody on the Zoom wish to offer some comments or feedback to the Planning Commission? So I'm not seeing anybody raising their hands. So how about this? If you have something you want to offer, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know that you'd like to make a comment.
Hi, this is Maria Rinaldi. How are you?
Hi, Maria. We're fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, thanks. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I was just coming to listen because I submitted my comments on the town plan through our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. So I don't want to take up any additional time talking about what we've already proposed, but on a personal note, I'd just like to encourage the planning committee to read the Declaration of Inclusion each time you enter into a session to edit the town plan. And ask yourselves, as you're editing it, does this document reflect our Declaration of Inclusion, or what changes could be made to help reflect those values? Thank you for all your work that you're doing.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else want to just unmute? Okay, so then
Does this mean everybody else loves the plan?
where they came to listen, well, Maria makes a very good point
Yeah,
that tonight is not the only opportunity. You can provide us your comments. You can meet with Linda in town hall, call her or email her at any time. We have a process that we've used to document all the comments that we've received. So tonight is really just the tip of the iceberg, and it's not the last chance. So if you have other comments, if you would go ahead and share them with her. We are trying to wrap up this next round of edits by the end of this week. So if you could provide those comments to Linda by Friday, that would be very helpful. But like she explained, there will be other meetings and other reviews through the fall. Okay, so do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing?
Eric, And do we have a second to close the hearing?
I'll second.
Sarah? So all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Sabina, are you okay? Are you voting to close the
Oh,
hearing?
I said aye. It just blended
Okay.
in.
Okay, thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay. So thank you very much for that. The next topic then is for the planning commission to continue our work on the town plan, especially incorporating into our discussion, the comments that we heard this evening, as well as the comments that we've heard over the last couple of weeks. I know Linda's received a lot, I've received a lot, David's processed a lot. So David, do you want to share anything or guide anything with the discussion now for this evening?
Nothing specific. I would just ask the commission to think about, based on the comments that you've received tonight and elsewhere, is there anything that jumps out at you that causes you to rethink some of the kind of principal directions and objectives that are included in the plan? I can't say personally that I've seen anything like that, but this is an important opportunity for you to reflect on that and think about, what needs to be changed, or perhaps something that is you feel is desperately missing.
I would pick up on a little bit on Jim's comments about where development can happen. And we kind of downplay the potential of the commercial district to serve as that town center with access to appropriate flat leach fields. We talk all about infill in the existing village centers, but we kind of leave that particular area as almost an afterthought. So perhaps we might want to consider moving that to a little bit more prominence as a location where development should be encouraged.
I do remember in the reading, so it lists it.
But it's almost an afterthought is how I felt about it.
Yeah, I have to go back with that lens.
Yeah.
And reread it. One thing, this is more of it's not that it's missing, but maybe it needs more emphasis and explanation. When we later in the game, we threw in having an action item related to creating a climate resilience plan. And there's not a whole lot of context about what is that kind of plan, what would be in that plan. And the comment from this evening made me think that maybe that needs a little bit more attention and highlighting, because adapting to climate change is one of their two major themes. And if that is a strategy, then maybe it needs to be elevated a bit.
I would say I was struck by Jeff's comment about the needing a stronger rationale or argument for expanding town government, that didn't quite feel sufficient. I don't know what sufficient would look like, but that caught me, and I feel that given the conversations we've had and the perspectives that we have shared here, there's a disconnect between what's on paper and what we've probably chatted about or done, and some of the rationale. And so if there's a way for us to increase and or just be a little bit more explicit about it, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I agree. The justification is, we think it's important, so we should do it. And I think it needs more why to it.
What are the benefits? What would be the benefits?
Yeah. What would we do with a 4-5 person that we can't do with a 3?
Yeah, and I think we've discussed repeatedly that the town plan has not materially changed over 30 years, and we've gotten no material change in the town in terms of growth opportunities or infrastructure. And the same things keep coming up year after year in surveys about the progress that people want to see. But with the resources that we have, coupled with the town plan not being specific or directive enough, we don't see any change.
Right.
And that's really what's driving us as a group to make big changes in the town plan compared to town plans of the past. But how do we say that? I think we've talked a lot about being visionary and positive and having clear direction. I don't think it's explicitly said that what we've been doing isn't working. And I don't know how you communicate that, but we have all agreed over the past, gosh, now for me, 5 years, that what we're doing isn't working. And that's a long time, like Jim always reminds us. And I've heard Jim say for 5 years that we need better infrastructure, and we all agree. And this is one of the best vehicles to make that happen. And that is what needs to get communicated. And the same thing with the select board. The select board does not have the capacity to accomplish things at the rate that we would like to see them happen because they don't have the bandwidth. And that is
Right.
why we feel that, and not just the select board, we feel that other specific resources are necessary. So.
I'm struck too, I'm thinking, I was reading the notes from last meeting and sort of the perpetual, like, how does our plan talk about who we are uniquely and what we uniquely in Jericho are and want to do and can do, right, for our vision in the future, Eric. And I'm thinking that part of it is this circling that happens, and that there may be, I don't know that it's appropriate at all to put in our town plan, but a recognition that the communities that are advancing their visions, that are the ones who are growing their resource base and are populating their schools, are the ones that have invested in town government. Right, that they have invested in a full town administrator or the manager. They've invested in a bigger footprint because you have to spend money to make money, or you have to, that old thing, right? That they have recognized that, they needed that investment to get to the next level, and we are calling upon ourselves to do that.
Be interesting to look at, and Linda, maybe you have access to this, but what did Williston's town plan look like about 35 years ago when they went from a traditional town select board government to what they have now? And how did they manage to convey that message?
Well, or Heinsberg.
Or Heinsberg doing it more recently?
Jim, you can put your hand down. I will give you a chance to comment, but not for a while. I'd like to really allow the conversation to go here for a bit. But I see you. I'll give you time.
I would like to say, Susan, I went to my first town meeting in Jericho in 1966. I have a degree in political science and several graduate degrees. The conversation around the select board, it's cost us millions of dollars. And tremendous frustration to not have adequate governance, adequate.
I think we agree with you, and I just want to let the conversation continue. I will definitely give you a chance to say more. I'm sorry, Eric, go ahead.
No, that was just the point of, as we're saying, Heinsberg or one of the other towns that went from what we have to that more advanced system, and see how did they justify it, and does it fit with what we're doing here as well? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, but just on a related piece, looking in our town plan at the number of new housing starts. Historically, you have that big bump in the 60s and early 70s, kind of a flattening down into the 80s, and then almost dropping off a cliff. That coincides with the town plan saying, we don't want buildings here. We want to preserve the rural. Protect.
Exclude.
It was too many people are coming here. We need to stop it. And that might have been also part of what's going on with some of the select board at that time. And the rules were passed that way. So I think if we should be clear to the town, this town plan is a break, which we're trying to do. I think we've done it. We're getting there.
I think to be accurate, the town plans of the past definitely emphasized protect, protect, protect. I have never seen it say we want to exclude and keep people out. That was definitely has been a result. And perhaps people said that in their out loud voices, or perhaps that was their motivation at the time. The plans never said that. So we shouldn't say that the plans said that. They resulted in
Yes.
making it harder and harder and more expensive.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
without looking at the minutes and recordings, we can't ascribe motivations.
Agree.
Yeah, I will say that that's a very normal human direction to take. When you have a wealth of, in this case, beauty and a great community, the instinct to protect it and not let it change is very strong.
Which
And
often is
that's
an
normal.
economic interest, because
Can be.
the greatest asset of most people is their homes,
Mhm.
and protecting your property value is a rational interest.
Yeah. But it can be a little closed-minded.
Absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
I'm not defending it.
Right.
I'm just trying to be objective
Yes.
and not judgmental.
Yes.
So that gets are we appropriately talking about the need to change the government system, which I think we've discussed, and I think that's right. Do we want to talk anything further about other comments on where we put the building in? I'm saying we should re-emphasize commercial district as a place for growth, or at least give it more prominence than it has. I think those two are very important things for us to do. And with that, I'll let other people talk.
Chris, you're unusual. Haven't heard from you yet this evening.
We're just gonna offer something in reply to what Eric said just now was, I don't think the new town plan needs to be a break from the old one. I think it needs to be a giant leap forward built on the old one. So I think that we can appreciate the town that we have and recognize how it got there, and at the same time recognize the ways in which it's not the town we want to have, and move towards that. Anyway, it's just sort of a subtle thing, but I don't think I don't think of it as a break from the old one. I think of it as a giant leap forward, which feels different to me, I guess.
We could change the title from a journey to a giant leap. From a journey forward to a giant leap forward.
Just don't call it the Great Leap Forward.
Why is that a book?
Chairman Mao's Great Leap Forward.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Okay, bad. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
You enjoy reading, it's out there.
Okay, Jim.
Specifically on the select board.
Yeah.
It is a dysfunctional government agency right now. If one select board member wants to talk to another select board member, they have to go in and sit down and talk to the town administrator. The town administrator has to call up the other select board member, talk to the select board member, because as a function of law, two people talking together in a 3-member board is a majority. It's a public meeting and you can't have it. So whether you like 3, you like 5, 3 does not work. We've had 5 authorized for probably over 10 years. It's part of our charter. All it needs to be is put on the town vote in March, and you got a 5-member board. Nobody wants to be on the select board because they're overworked without proper support and staff, and they've got to get involved with whether somebody's driving a truck correctly or incorrectly. So you need a town manager to remove the day-to-day supervision challenges and the retention, training, and development of staff. Just like any other entity that's trying to organize, you can't report to 3 part-time political people who may or may not be available, may or may not agree. And so you can't get good people on the select board with the bandwidth, the scope committed if they don't have a manager taking care of the day-to-day business. You brought the town manager from St. Albans down here, who is,
We loved him.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he's dealing with data, okay, filling up empty industrial buildings. He takes 70 grand out of his ARPA funds and he loans them to a bike shop because they really need a bike shop and says, hey guys, if you do a really good job, maybe you don't have to pay it back. Entrepreneurial spirit, courage, intelligence, strength. That's what a good select board needs in its town organization, somebody that can stand up to irate citizens, that's got a perspective on finance. In the time that I've been talking to this group, the cost to develop and build anything is up at least 40%. The
Mhm.
cost of the capital,
Mhm.
the interest that has to be paid has doubled.
Okay,
So
I
we are
think we
far
can,
less likely to do anything constructive in the
Yes.
future than we've done in the past, unless we do the great leap forward.
I think
which
we
is
can
major changes.
transcribe the minutes from what you just explained and incorporate that into the rationale for expanding the
I'd be
capacity
more than
of the
willing to
select
debate it
board.
with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think this group is convinced because we,
Already
Are-
put in the plan.
already put it in the plan. We just didn't explain it well enough. So you just helped fill in that
Mhm.
detail.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does that mean I get to drive the Tesla?
Sure.
Yeah.
So one thing I asked from the DRB is, I see these lots come up and they develop them, and they don't develop them to the max, right? They hit the Act 250 limit and they stop. Nobody will go over the Act 250 limit. So I see really nice development, but why don't you put it in 50? Yes, put the 9. And they hit the 9, they don't want to invest that $400,000 in the extra year in Act 250. I see it in, so they set aside, the PUD process preserves land, that's really nice. But, and it works great, I mean, I don't have any problem with the rules you guys write in the DRB. But, if we want to develop, does the town pay the Act 250 charge?
That was Sarah's proposal. Just a couple of weeks ago, she said to really think about how can the town help people get over that Act 250 hump? If it's money, is it consulting, is it legal, is it expertise?
People they go in for 9 and they have plenty of nice lots for 12. But they don't touch it.
Hey, Susan,
Yeah.
we're having trouble hearing when people aren't coming
Yeah,
up.
you guys. I
Oh,
love-
sorry.
This conversation's great. You gotta sit in the
Yeah.
chair.
Okay.
Just all move up
I
a row.
doubt I need to.
Jim, you gotta sit in the chair.
Just move
buddy.
up a row.
Or just sit in the.
Okay, so this is Jeff York, who is also on the DRB, so he has perspective.
So I see developments come in and they have lots of land and they will go right up to the Act 250 limit of 9 houses and plus one other lot for a public lot. And, the rules, and they'll do it. And I asked, well, why don't you do 15? And they said, we don't want to touch Act 250. Or they do some kind of convoluted, we'll come back in 4 years and do something different, but they won't. And anyways, then they get into HOA that now owns the property that will never let them redevelop the other lots. So when I sit there, I always ask the question, why don't you develop more lots? You've already put the road in, you've already disturbed the land, the deer paths, just go ahead and throw more houses down. They won't, because they Act 250. So that's one comment that I have. And the other comment I have, just noticing my community, is that, we have lots of bedrooms in Jericho. We just have fewer and fewer people. People love Jericho, but there's no like community for people who want to stay in Jericho, so they stay in their houses. You know, my community, my neighborhood used to have be full of kids and, you know, and it's just all, you know, couples my age enjoying it, but. We have septic capacity and, you know, our HOA would don't allow you to do it ADU, but, anyways. Another comment is that I noticed people want to stay in Jericho, but there's no place to go, so they continue to occupy these kind of big empty houses. We'll all have 4-bedroom houses and all our kids.
And that's what Eric says all the time too. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I just wanted to make that act.
The plus side is, at some point, all of us are gonna move out of those houses. It may not be for another 10 or 15 years.
No, in the
I may wonder.
in the 70s, people left. Once your kids left, people would move to Florida, they move away. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody leaves.
Yeah.
So all these houses, you know,
Right.
just have fewer and fewer people in them.
Or they go to Florida for 5.5 months out of the year and their houses are empty for 5.5 months. There's a fair amount of people who do that,
Mhm.
that are older.
6.5 months, so they don't pay Vermont taxes.
So I,
Right.
Yeah,
It's
the opposite.
Depends on which taxes you're paying,
Income taxes.
or you can pay higher property taxes, because you have non-residential property tax. I
I
mean,
mean,
there's
in
trade.
Florida, you can pay no income taxes and deduct your Vermont property taxes.
One of the things, Jeff, one of the pieces on our earlier comments or surveys that we did was, what would make you leave Jericho? I would guesstimate 30 to 40% of the respondents said a pine box.
It was one of the most popular.
We did get that.
Yeah.
You don't have to leave.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But we
But
have,
that speaks volumes.
But that's my.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have spoken in the plan. Also, the plan is revised a little bit since, or it will be revised, and the argument about smaller and services for seniors is, I think, maybe a little bit stronger. So we recognize that if there were places for us all to move to, but you could still stay in Jericho in a cool, smaller place,
Right.
there's a lot of people who would do that. That's what we heard. A lot of people said, I would move to the Corners, or I would move to Jericho Center if there was a place there for me to move.
And there is a proposal to build something in Riverside that would serve that need, but we have no infrastructure. So that's why that's the top thing in this plan.
So, yeah, like I said, before, the infrastructure would, you know, we go, from what I see in the ERB. This will drive a lot of infill.
It would enable a lot.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Act 250 is exempted by being a designated growth center.
Right.
We can do that here. And that is one of the ways, because in 1972, when Act 250 was brought into reality, it was because out-of-state developers were coming in and developing land incorrectly, too steep, incorrect infrastructure. They didn't even own some of the land they developed. And so Act 250 was spawned because there was no zoning. The towns didn't have any staff. There wasn't methods of communication. So we've ended up with redundancy, duplication, and actual conflict, because what one town wants when you go to Act 250, nobody in their right minds with a medium scale project is going to enter into an uncertain variable process that could easily take 3 years and creates all types of problems after you've already gone through this process. The people who are actually the organization in support of Act 250 defended their own jobs, power, and position because Governor Scott and the rest of the people tried to exempt us for housing from Act 250, and we got the 25 exemptions. But what did they do? Only if you have municipal sewer and municipal water. One of the worst systems that we have in the state of Vermont is municipal sewer. The solution to pollution is dilution, and it all goes into the rivers. One of the best systems is an Jericho, where we treat the system with oxygen and filters close to where it's sourced, and then we put treated effluent out. I've taken on the people from the Agency of Natural Resources with the wastewater division people sitting there and my process, they accepted. They would drink the water from our systems before it goes to the septic field. And they don't want to drink the municipal water because in Burlington, the municipal water system floods because it's connected to the stormwater system. And
All
how
right,
many
so
of the
we're not gonna go into too much more detail on septic design, but I will say
It's all
that
about Act
I know,
250.
but you raised a good point that there was legislation proposed, it wasn't passed, but there's an effort underway to review that and to try to make more progress on it, which makes me think that we should have an action item in our plan that is following the legislation so that you know how we talk about shovel ready, so that as that legislation progresses over the next whatever 1 to 2 to 3 years, that once they change the rules, which it sounds like they'll do, that we're ready to go. Like we have either zoning in the wings or the zoning is already supportive of whatever relief the developers would have from Act 250.
You can
So
create
that
a
we
fire-
don't have to
you can
wait.
Create a fire district today.
Yeah, whatever it is, we're not
No,
gonna,
You can do it today because the word is municipal sewer. It
Right.
doesn't say municipal sewer going into the rivers. So Jericho could say, oh, I get a 25 exemption. I can do Act 2, I can stay at Act 250 if I'm doing 25 units for the next 18 months. You don't have time to wait.
right,
You gotta do it and you gotta
Right.
do it soon.
okay,
And you gotta build a fire district that also has the capacity. You acquire an easement to put the effluent in. You take the engineer and say, design a septic system that accommodates this.
right. So that's, I'm on this, I'm
But if
on
you
that
do it for
track.
18 months, the 25 goes away.
So we're trying to get
They're
our
not
plan
gonna
done
do
by
the rest.
December.
What I might suggest is taking your thoughts and that this may come back up under the gold dome next session, is building in a trigger point that in the event this happens, the legislation gets passed, the select board will immediately approve this new zoning district or this new element.
Right,
So we build it into the plan and it's ready to go.
right. Well, like Jeff said, I mean, it's not the zoning that's preventing some of the
Yep.
neighborhoods from being larger, but making sure that we have the obstacles cleared.
If this particular
Yeah,
piece comes in, that's
right.
you're 25 and you've got surface water treatment with the right septic system in there and the
Mhm.
leach field's okay, automatically that goes from a 10-acre lot to a 2-acre lot or
Mhm.
a 5 or a half-acre lot
Mhm,
because the development has got the capacity to support it.
right,
And that makes it part of the plan, which then makes it really easy for the planning commission in the year 2050 to say, oh, look, this happened. We can pass that law.
2024. Yeah,
There you go.
right.
Can I follow up on a
Yes.
different piece of it? And that was the reference to a designated growth center.
Mhm.
Are we?
I can speak a little bit to that.
Yeah.
There is a effort going on currently at the state level, and they're engaging with all the regional planning commissions to assess the effectiveness of the different village designations as they currently stand. And I think it's going to be next calendar year at some point where the state will be revamping those designations, so they are gonna evolve. Some may be retained, but it sounds like they're going to change some of them to try to make them more useful and meaningful, so. When I talked to Taylor at Regional Planning last week, he said, hold off at this moment on pursuing additional designations until the dust settles around the effort that they're going through right now to assess the effectiveness, because the designations are likely to change in the very near future.
We
That
have
would be
the
a trigger event, right?
we have the designation now for each of our 3 village
Yeah, village
centers.
center, the
So
growth
they
is
would
big.
qualify.
But if the infill development, like we've talked about, is happening in the triangle, that's outside of that.
Right. However, our new town plan, the new draft, does actually discuss the concept of a growth area. Doesn't quite use that technical language just yet, but that's what that's there
So
for. It's kind of a placeholder, exactly,
like
to
that.
say like, we could flip this switch if we had to.
Right.
Thank you.
And that's new. That'll be new in version 3. Bill, would you come up and use the microphone, please?
I have a question.
Okay,
I just wanted to clarify the designation that you're referring to is a state, not a town designation.
yes.
Thank you.
The town designates it, it gets authorized by the state. It's in effect a zoning district that's endorsed by the state. If you don't start the process, you don't get it. And if you
Right.
wait for the bureaucrats, you'll probably never get it. And if there's any change that goes in the wrong direction, and you've already gotten it, they can't take it away from you.
Right. When we just renewed our designations for Jericho Center and Riverside, right?
Yes.
Recently in the last couple of months, because you have to renew them every 10 years,
No.
5 years, something like that. So Linda's made sure that we keep our designation current, because without a designation, most grants, most funding, either state or nonprofit housing is not available. So that is something that makes a big difference. It really like greases the skids. But what we have now, they might be changing. So I want to make sure people on the Zoom, we've been having a good conversation here. I hope everybody can hear us okay. And I just want to make sure, does anybody want to weigh in or comment or add something? There's a chat comment. We generally try to, oh, couldn't hear. Michael, I'm sorry. So hopefully it's gotten better since maybe we weren't using the microphone for a couple people.
Nice.
Can I pick up on one comment? I think Jeffrey?
Jeff, yeah.
That you made about homeowners associations and circumventing some existing zoning and like.
Not allowing ADUs.
And you, like, I don't
They're not,
understand this.
they're not circumventing zoning. Our zoning does not preclude an HOA from excluding certain things, or from saying your minimum house size is 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, so.
Or you
so
can't
what-
have
so
a
what do we do
duplex.
about that?
I
You know?
think the answer to that question is pretty clear. I think
Yeah.
we make a guideline that says your HOA cannot
Yeah,
do these things.
because otherwise, how do we make progress?
Yep,
I think that's really important.
yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Let's check that.
I did bring that one up
Yeah.
a couple
I do remember.
times ago.
Well, because there's HOAs that also have like their brand new lots and they have a minimum house size.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't build anything less than 1,800 square feet.
Yeah.
So that's exactly circumventing what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Right. It should be not legal, but
Apparently it is.
it is completely legal.
You can have homeowners associations that tell you how tall your grass can be, what kind of trees you can have in front of everything.
What color paint?
But one of the things on the adding ADUs and existing HOAs, if they've already got a community septic that's overloaded, it's a non-issue. You simply
Yeah, it wouldn't
can't.
be approved.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. Moving forward.
Moving
How does-
forward.
How does that show up?
It's a loophole that we now know exists and should anticipate being utilized often, potentially, if we want, and therefore we need to close the loophole.
So in order to properly close that loophole, would we be adverse to putting in something that says when an HOA comes in, it should design septic with 10, 15, 20, 30% excess capacity to allow for ADUs or other
or
expansion?
more bedrooms in the same house or.
Could we
whatever.
do that? David?
Could you?
Yeah, we probably couldn't do that, could we?
Well, I think you'd be hard pressed to require somebody to build something that.
Yeah.
That they are not proposing to actually make use of. Can you create incentives for them to do it on their own?
Can I ask, is that a
Mhm.
zoning or plan town? Town plan, sorry.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think the question is, can you require it through your zoning?
Yeah,
If someone were to appeal that, the argument would be what, I have no intention of building 50 extra units here. Why should I have to build the infrastructure to support that? That increase the cost of the units that I'm building today
Yeah.
and undermines
Yeah.
the town's
Yeah.
affordability argument. So
Yeah.
if you flip that coin to think about, are there ways that you can incentivize that?
So what if for the town plan at least, because the town plan has to be in place before the zoning, and we're talking about updating the zoning as our next big effort, right? That we make sure that what we have in the town plan states an intentionality or directive to explore the ways in which there are loopholes or other ways in which we know this current zoning is not aligned with the future intentions of the town plan. And that we have given ourselves a timeline and working on zoning. And that one of those.
I think there's a million things in there
I was
about
gonna say
zoning.
that, right?
Zoning's
Yeah.
covered, but I thought what you were gonna say, which I would think we should say, is something like explore how to better make sure that homeowners association agreements
Mhm.
are not in conflict
Yeah.
with
Are
the
they
goals of the
frustrated?
plan,
Right,
goals of the
right.
plan or the zoning.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can't conflict with the zone.
Yes.
So your zoning, as you're aware, typically zoning ordinances have, minimum requirements. You have a minimum lot size, you have a minimum setback, that type of thing. If you include maximums, you can get at some of that too, because you're attacking the other end of the issue and you're ensuring that you're building smaller lots. So you can require, can you require that in this zoning district that and require a mix of house types.
Mhm.
Building types.
So we could offer that, as you were saying earlier, that if you increase the capacity beyond what your planned number of units is for sale to allow for extra, you can have extra capacity if you do that. So if you're building 20 units and we say you put in a septic that can hold 25, you can add an extra 2 units.
When was the
So-
last time anybody asked for a 20-unit, a greater than 9-unit subdivision in this town?
Well, to hear the stories we've heard, never.
Well, and I think
No,
up to
never, but-
50 is an important.
Yeah.
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 Well, but I think conceptually, right? So there's like, how will it play out in decisions that are made? But I think for the purposes now of the level of detail that we want in the town plan, it is looking at not only homeowners association guidelines and rules, but are there any other entities that are creating self-governing rules that are in conflict with the plan? I don't know what those would be. But it could be that a commercial developer would, not just in the housing realm, but in the commercial realm, or there's some other way, some other part of government or some other decision-making body is.
Well, we
Right.
know our public work specifications
Right.
completely frustrate all of our goals
Right,
because
yeah.
they're 100 years old and
Yes.
need to be updated. We also know that the zoning currently requires like the fire department and the conservation commission and the trails committee to comment, but they have no authority. And so the DRB isn't obligated, to force the applicant to comply, even though the Trails Committee says it would be really great if, and I don't know how much of that we can do either, but those are the kinds of things that you're saying, like, we should really scrutinize, kind of like the DEI question, like, you have to go through everything with this lens to say, where is this not really enforcing the goal?
Whether it's on purpose or not.
Yeah, right.
Right, because sometimes it's not intentional, but it's an unintended consequence of a different decision,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think charging ourselves and putting in the plan that we are explicitly going to be looking for those and holding ourselves jointly accountable is important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Jim, I'm ready to move on, so I'll give you 1 more minute.
With respect to sewer, the town, natural resources includes gravel. We've said for years, you need to acquire the community, the natural resources necessary to implement the plan. You won't get any of what you're proposing to do done because you don't control the land resources that are necessary to treat the septic for what you've already got. So if you do not create as a function of the town plan, the direction to identify the resources that could provide necessary functions for the people who are already resident here, like let's stop from burning down Jericho Center. Let's help Milo White Road have some water so their buildings are not worthless. Let's get some clean water for the center because they've got wells in the cones of the septic systems, but we can't even keep track of the studies. But you can, through the town plan, identify to the economic development group to hire somebody to identify those areas in close proximity to the principal corridors of transportation that could be used for community septic treatment, to acquire interest in that property either by eminent domain or by purchase, to be able to actually implement some part of the pipe dreams.
So don't we have that sort of addressed, David, with the commentary about developing an official map? Would identify those kinds of resources and land and rights of way.
Well, that would be the tool that you would use to protect them.
Mhm.
But the feasibility study that the town's doing now may be an important tool in identifying where are these sites that are most suitable, and the official map might be a tool to protecting them for future.
A good engineer in 3 days with the Agency of Natural Resources soils maps could identify what I'm talking about, instead of waiting another 6 months for the study that I can't even find a copy of. But there's lots of ways to get this stuff done and to do it well, all of which goes to governance and structure. A fire district that has the authority to assume or to grab or to purchase whatever. But you could take all of the sewage for Jericho Center and for a good area around and place it onto land that was donated to the community, that was offered in October of 2016 to the town of Jericho. And as we approach October 2023, we've spent almost $70,000 and we still don't have any control or authority over the Rivers' property, and it's not mentioned in the town plan. 125 acres of area that could meet many of the needs that you're talking about, and could in fact be the southeast community center adjacent to the largest user, industrial and occupation resources in the whole town by far, MMU. All the people that are going there, you're not going to develop Jericho Center, but you can create an expanded center that includes MMU, the Rivers' property, and all of that potential. You can't develop this center because it's too sloped. But you can define a designated center that starts at the tavern, that ends at the fire department on 15, and you can avoid Act 250 in that corridor. You can qualify for federal and state funds in order to do it. And you can define through your town plan how to limit access and egress to 15, so you're not creating 15 million curb cuts. And then you could have a vision of a well-planned, well-developed community before my friends who happen to own most of this land that would like to see something happen are in the pine boxes.
One more comment.
Sure.
I have a quick copy of ADU.
Yeah, can you come to the microphone?
So, this is Jeff York again. You guys did a great job with the ADU and it's well written. And I assumed that would be very popular. So I asked Chris, they don't come from the DRB, Chris does them as a zoning administrator. So I asked him how many has he done in the last year. He said 8. I was really surprised that the number was that low.
You can't do ADUs with existing septic.
You have to requalify your entire septic system.
It's financially unfeasible. So it's a great concept, but you can't, if you're on a private septic, you'd have to redesign your septic, redo your.
Well, you have to verify if your capacity is insufficient, which most people's it would be.
If you're before clean slate, you have to requalify your existing septic field.
Mhm.
And not as many people want a
But-
stranger in their house as people would.
But
Current rents.
yes,
Rents is so high, you would think that we would have, I was expecting a number like 30.
yes.
I was
So we did
expecting
add,
handfuls accepted.
Yeah.
So what did you have to redo your septic to pay for in the rent?
Well, that's.
we did add something in the town plan that asks the town to do more outreach to residents, to explain to them the programs. And then some towns like pre-design an ADU so that it would be more quickly approved, and potentially grants to help people with expanding their septic. So it won't happen overnight to increase it, but increasing the number of ADUs built in Jericho would be a huge benefit. Huge benefit, especially because of those bedrooms you were talking about. The other thing is home share, where, you know, if they convinced you or me to rent out one of the bedrooms where our sons used to live, exactly. But for some people, that's a good, right? But that's another option so for example, one of the things we did is we changed the language around family.
That was made it much better.
Was much more like it's a household and there's different combinations, and it doesn't have to be this traditional, 3-bedroom house, that we're looking and inviting other configurations.
I didn't even jump in.
No, that's okay. Okay, I think we should move on. So, move on to other business. So do we have other business to discuss? Any updates from planning commission people about your liaison roles, or any conferences you've attended, or?
I was curious about municipal day. Is it October, in October?
Mhm.
If anyone from the planning commission was considering, or.
I think
town.
Sabina, did you hear the question?
I did hear the question. I am definitely considering attending. I'm waiting for the the agenda to come out so that I can see what the topics are, but I will most likely attend.
I did see an agenda up there like yesterday, so.
Oh, they just posted
Right.
it, then it
Yeah.
wasn't up today.
Yeah, is that something that the town will support?
Absolutely, yeah.
Planning commission?
Yeah,
just
so
let
if you
Linda know?
can go and want to go,
Okay.
the town will pay.
The one at National Light?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did just see something today about that.
I've gone before. I went maybe 4 years ago, and it was
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah.
It was just like seeing other folks in the same
Yeah.
roles is helpful.
I
Yeah.
know John signed up and I might go as well.
Mhm.
My schedule. But yeah, if you want to go, let me know.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I would go, but I can't go. Or I mean, I would like to go, but I can't go.
Okay.
So if anybody else wants to go, VNRC has a municipal day. You can look at the agenda online and ask to be reimbursed if you want to go. Or I think the town will just register. I think you get the town, Paula registers people and pays, is how it works.
And that's the first week of October, if I remember.
It's October 20th,
20th.
Yeah.
and the agenda is online. Cause I just opened the link in the email, and then there's another link from there you have to open. Build back better municipalities after a flood.
Mhm.
That's one of their first topics.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think we went, one of the first years we were both on planning commission, went down there. For that.
Yeah,
it's good.
it was big. It was a lot of people
50
and
people, yeah, maybe more.
yeah, no, I thought it was like a couple of hundred people
Yeah, when I went, there was a couple hundred people for sure.
at VNRC, yeah. Linda, what has any progress been made on either the village wastewater study or the path, the Stantec path project?
I did have a meeting with newly reassigned staff who are replacing Eric, who got injured on the PATH project, and they are incorporating the feedback. I gave them the feedback directly that needed to be included, and they are working on a report right now and hoping to have it by the end of September.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's like week after next.
Yes. And the wastewater, I don't have any updates on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a question. Did the DEI committee comments get to you? I know SJ was gonna send, okay, good.
They did, and they've
Great.
already been
Cool.
Yep,
folded in.
great, thank you.
Mhm.
Are we waiting for any other committees? Because I know I missed last meeting,
Mhm.
but the meeting before. I know there was a request that we knock on the door of the other committees because many of them had intentions to review, but they hadn't had an opportunity yet.
We heard from the Community Development Corp, submitted written comments. Affordable Housing submitted written comments,
Energy.
DEI, Energy. I went to the select board meeting and talked about the plan there and invited them to submit feedback. And, they didn't have too much at the time, but maybe I'll remind them again. I think they're kind of waiting till it comes to them anyway. We didn't hear comments from the Trails Committee since the first round of comments when they came in and said connectivity was important.
Okay.
But I think we reminded that we gave everybody a deadline of September 14th. So I think they're, not that they couldn't comment still, but
Have you heard from the DRB directly?
I have not.
no, we've
Oh,
heard from Chris Flynn.
Right, I wish Jeff was still here with us.
I have a question. In terms of the size of the select board, that has to go to town meeting, right, for a
Mhm.
vote? So what is the process to get from here to the vote?
Well, actually, what I heard from Jim earlier is that it's already in the town charter. We just need to have people run for the extra seats.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, you have to have a petition.
Yeah,
Has to be warned.
yes.
So the select board started to talk that through and because I did talk about that a little bit at their meeting. And they kind of talked through the timing because the town meeting has to be warned by January and their agenda. So they have to decide relatively soon if they, how they think the timing's gonna go. But the petition can come from anybody. It has to be signed by X% of the voters, and then that would force it to come to a vote.
But it would have to happen early enough, say in the early part of the fall, for the select board to take action to put it on the ballot for March and then create an opportunity for people to run for the open seats.
Right.
We have
So
an election coming up in November of 2024 that would be before that.
That would require a special election.
Yeah, our elections are in March.
Your election.
So the other thing that happened at the select board meeting that I was at is that SJ was there as an individual, not as a housing chair. And she was imploring the select board to do a thorough analysis of their staffing requirements and that it should be an open public process that includes like a task force. That's maybe people from the community and somebody from a couple of committees. And she thought that the select board maybe could use some help and some structure and more public engagement to decide what the staffing and capacity issues were but rolled into that was expanding the select board. So you sort of have people want to make it happen fast, but some people want to also make it like thorough and a well thought out process.
I'm sorry, so SJ wants to do a study to see if the select board needs to be bigger?
Just more comprehensive about what the town needs overall, because the select board hired a consulting company already to come in and
Your tax
assess.
dollars.
The select board, I think, because we were rattling around about this in the spring and the summer, and they anticipated this recommendation and they agree that they need to figure out their staffing needs. They hired a company called NEMRC, NMRC.
Yeah, NEMRC. I don't know if have they hired them, because I had not heard of that.
Oh, I thought they had.
I heard they had reached out to them to ask about getting an audit, because that is something that the company offers, is municipal capacity audits, and NEMRC is the same company that the listers use to manage the grand list. There's some sort of
acronym for the listers software.
it is.
Yes, it's the same company.
Same company.
Okay, I thought they had engaged them.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
But it could have happened without me knowing, but I know John said that he was attempting to reach them because they do offer municipal capacity audits. To be able to look at a community and what their needs are and help them identify gaps and roles that they, could use more capacity in.
So
Okay, but
supposedly they were already getting that underway.
I know of at least one current select board member who is in strong favor of an expanded select board.
Mhm.
How many people in town do not think that the town needs that?
My understanding of that audit was it was more focused on staff.
Right, so
Mhm.
we're
It was
mixing,
more-
we're
yeah.
mixing.
Yeah.
We are mixing, so I shouldn't have, the only reason I was offering that is because SJ's suggestion to them was to make it more comprehensive. And I think what they were contemplating was if they should just initiate the vote or the ballot item themselves, which they can do, they don't have to have a petition.
I guess I'm just hoping that we could sort of move towards making things happen instead of.
So it was on a ballot and it was voted down. I voted against it however many years ago. Jim probably knows how many years ago, maybe 8 years ago. Because I was like, no, I'm against big government. I'm against more people having their hand in the pie, more politicking. Because I did not have any understanding of what the benefits were or what the current shortcomings were.
Can I speak to this? There's a 3,500 pound elephant in the room, and you need to know what it is. It's a pink elephant. The fear is, since Jericho is not an active democracy with people willing to serve and having competitive elections, the reason that the select board has been constrained for years is to try to make sure that certain people do not have the opportunity to run and get elected and be on the select board. That's actually, people ran against someone in order to take the slot so that that person couldn't get on the board. I've been watching this. The reality is we want good quality people. You need 10 of them. You need 5 to run and 5 to run against them. That's a nice competitive process. So that somebody just doesn't appoint themselves to the board.
Right.
That's the con. The positive thing is if you say we are going to move to a town manager form of government where there is in fact a day-to-day manager of the employee functions, holding employees accountable, doing budgets, rewarding, retaining, attracting, and doing all that other stuff, and that the board is going to deal with the big issues that are coming our way, then I think you'll actually see an upswell. And you guys are the spokesman for the citizens appointed by the elected officials that need to communicate the positive aspects of having bandwidth depth, overcoming the functional problems of public meeting and all that other stuff. Just imagine being the town administrator, having to listen to the people in order to not have a public meeting.
Well, I think my impression was that they were considering whether or not they should just initiate it themselves. And we can ask John what their current thoughts are about it, and I can
So
ask.
this seems to be more complicated than I thought.
It's a little,
So,
little complicated, but you're asking a good
well,
question.
right, right, so if this doesn't get kicked down the road for 5 more years, like what, it seems like instead of, I guess my question is, should we be doing more now? Instead of just including reference to it in the town plan, do we need to be more proactive about getting it to move forward?
2 people on the
You
select
probably
board
just
can
need to know the timing and whether or not they're just gonna do it. If they're gonna put it on the ballot, then it's done.
Right, but the problem with that is
I mean, we would have a
it can
big,
go on the ballot and get voted down again.
right, that would be, but then we would have 4 months to work on
Right,
all the
but imagine
communications
the
around it.
first step of us working on it is getting a petition signed, and at least all those people who sign it are likely to be yes votes.
They've
And
been
then they're
educated.
talking to their friends about it because they signed something saying that they
But it
support
also
it,
has
and they
to happen
understand the
in-
motivation.
in time for people to say, I might be interested in running for that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mhm.
We might not hit this election cycle.
Yeah.
Reality. We might not hit this election cycle, and that also doesn't count the strategic decision to say, once we know if they're not, for example, if they decide they're not doing it, meaning the select board says we are not doing it, then I do think we as a group should consider being more proactive and not relying just on the town plan,
Right.
but to start stimulating a petition process. It's not gonna help us for this year, but it would help for the next one.
Well, sure. I mean, there's nothing to stop us from doing that right now.
Are we overstepping our bounds?
Yeah,
committee
it doesn't
doing
feel
that?
right to me.
That feels,
The town plan's not adopted yet.
Okay.
Well, we could
Maybe,
publicly
I don't
say as
know.
individuals that we think it's a good idea and somebody ought to do that.
we can certainly all post on Front Porch Forum of why we think it's important as individuals. I sense that as a commission to
That's
do
what I'm
this,
hearing.
that is not
Yeah.
our charter from the town. And so we said we recommend it, which is important because it's part of good planning and governance as a commission, but to go further than that and saying, and we need to have a vote on it by March 5th, 2024, might be overstepping. our
Right,
bounds.
it's hard enough. People are so busy. We get such a small slice of their attention. It's
Yeah.
so easy to confuse issues and conflate them like, wait, what? And we just heard we need to create a stronger rationale in the town plan. That to me would be like a good opportunity to point it out and percolate.
Okay.
The question is like, is there time? Like, I don't know what the last minute is, but I kind of agree with Heidi. Like, I don't want to put it off and kick the can down the road either, but it just might be more well supported all the way around if it just takes another cycle.
And there's nothing that says we can't have it on a special election.
That's true too, right?
But on a related topic, is a similar process happen for the town manager concept?
That has to go through
No.
state legislature.
Yeah, that's a bigger lift,
Change the charter.
right?
Which would be done better with a 5-person select board.
Right, which we have as an action item in the plan right now, is to initiate the process to review the charter, to put it in place, to go to a town manager.
Okay.
I know, business,
We're good at
government, business, government, they're just not the same.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, you know, we heard from people who were like, I didn't know, and so going slower in a way is more fair, tries to be more fair. I know it sucks.
I believe we as a commission have done a very good job in communicating with much of the public about what we're doing, why we're doing it, what the intention is. Yeah, whether they're paying any attention to what we're communicating, I don't know, but it's out there all the time. And I once we get an authorization, I think we can move that forward and move forward the idea of a town manager pretty effectively.
Well, the town manager seems like
It's a select board decision and a charter change, but we can argue in the town plan for that, and then we become a voice to support that if it has to go in front of a vote. But that's not what we're working on right now. We're still on town plan.
But I think we should at least know, like, see this work plan? I don't know how many times I've asked David and Linda, like, okay, what are the deadlines? When do we have to warn by this date? So what you're asking, Chris, is like, if we wanted to have 5 members voted by March, whatever, what do we need to do? By what date? I don't have the answer to that question. we should get the answer to that question, and we'll do that.
Okay.
And we'll talk about it at our next meeting. Okay. Any other business? Perfect segue, wrap up and planning for our next meeting. Okay, so the planning commission agreed to hold an additional extra meeting on September 26th. So can at least 4 of us come? Most people can come, right? And David thinks that he can probably give us our draft by that date. Before the 26th, not before the 26th.
No, not a version 3.
Okay,
No, the version 3 we won't have that to you until your meeting on the 3rd.
on the 3rd.
Expectation for the meeting on the 26th would be, we'll talk about the getting it done
Oh, right.
chapter and button that up, so that will be the last piece that I'll ship off to Liz to turn around. And then be able to get you a complete draft 3 for your meeting on the 3rd.
So we're not, in effect, making changes after October 3rd.
The planning commission would, the planning commission, the expectation is that on October 3rd, the commission will vote to send the draft plan to the select board with your recommendations, or as your recommendation. And then it becomes their document and they will make whatever changes they see that.
So can you remind us, somebody? I don't know who the somebody is. Just, I know I won't be able to be in person on the 5th, on the 26th. I have a meeting that I need to be away for. But I can either patch in and or provide comment before, as long as I know, where it is most useful for me to have done so. So it sounds like getting it done is the topic for conversation, but there's also some outstanding sections that we haven't had time or to talk about and or we want to revisit based on the great collaborative editing that's been going on. So, right, is there something else that you want to give us as an assignment? That whether we're talking about it or not on the 26th?
Well, can we
needs?
share like the rough word or as a PDF, not editable, but even though it doesn't look great, that the planning commission can see, so they can see all the edits that you've
I
made?
can share with you what I'll be sending to Liz, as cleaned up as possible, but there are pages that are blank and pages that have 2 or 3 words on them, so the formatting is a disaster. But you'll get a sense of what it looks like. I can share that.
That would be awesome.
Very helpful.
Yeah. And would you be able to do that by like the Friday before that 26th, which would be the 22nd? Oh yeah, that's this Friday. It's so, but that was your plan anyway, right?
I need to send it to Liz, but just so that you're clear, there won't be an opportunity for us to make changes to that.
So we're done
And
with the town
you're gonna be
plan,
done. And
aside from
we're-
get it done.
I'm in the process of wrapping up all of these comments and all of the edits from before and packaging that up and sending it off, leaving the door open for, we'll make some final edits to that last chapter, getting it done at your next meeting, and then that will get wrapped up.
So just as a point of process, because I'm a little out of sync. I know there was a small writing team that was supporting. Are all that is part of what you're packaging for
Yes.
this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, all
Okay.
that work has been done, and incorporated, and I'm in the process of
Beautiful.
making sure all of these other comments get incorporated and embellishing a couple of points that we heard about tonight and we discussed previously. Linda's doing some edits on the volume 2 stuff and between
Maps. We're still working on maps.
map stuff.
Yes.
Maps.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can we just go over dates again? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So September 22nd, which is Friday, is the date that you're sending the unformatted document to Liz. That can also be sent to the planning commission for discussion on the 26th.
Right, I mean, you can see that, but there's no time left then to edit to make further edits to that document. You'll see it come back in its final form. But there's no time left to then make further edits to that based on those, other than those that you've already made.
So what I remember happened once before with the planning commission is, so take what David just said, and we look at it, we're like, oh my God, page 27 says blue, and we really wanted to say red. We hand our town plan to the select board with a memo that
Okay.
says, oh, BT dubs, this needs to be whatever, red, not blue, or blue, not red, whichever I said.
Yeah.
So that's one way.
Here's our recommendation.
you-
Following suggested.
Because of the process.
Yeah.
And because, the public has to see the stages, you just can't keep moving,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can't be a
Yeah.
moving target. So that's how you do that. Okay, so
Okay.
then the select board receives our memo and they're like, oh, blue. And then in their process, they make it say blue
Yeah.
and incorporate whatever other feedback they receive, which could still be from us.
Right.
And they potentially decide to make revisions.
Yeah. So on the October 3rd meeting, do we have to have all our blue memos identified and aligned when we vote
I
to
don't
send it
know.
to the select board?
I think we had time the last time when we did that last to. Here's the piece, and then 2 weeks later, here are some recommended changes we had. Because they have to look at
Yeah,
it
because they
themselves.
have a public hearing and.
Right, they're gonna hold 2 public hearings, and so you'll have an opportunity to provide them with, here's some other things that we, want you to consider, or, that they're talking about changing things to blue, and you're like, no. We really disagree with that, and you do have that opportunity.
Yeah, because their first hearing won't be until November,
And
probably.
will any of our memos for recommendations for changes, those are all public record, right? So if folks were
Mhm.
really tracking on
Mm-hmm,
the document, they'll be able to see those.
mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm.
Thank you for asking, Wendy. That was really
Mhm.
helpful for me too.
I sent you a really good article from Heinsberg's debate about administrator versus town manager.
Okay,
But I didn't have David's.
I'll share it with them. Thank you.
I didn't, Wendy.
I'll send it.
The rest.
All right, thank
Thank
you. Okay, so that's,
Good debate, since that's also where Todd went.
that's the
Right.
20,
Right.
the 26th and the 3rd.
Armed people.
All right, so that's the plan for those 2 meetings. Do we have other agenda topics for either one of those? Linda, that you can recall?
No, we're keeping.
Do we
the
wanna-
runway Clear for the plan.
Right,
Can we insert one in for the character zoning district, please? If we have a moment or two to do something to either say we recommend removing it and putting in like any other district, so we can do something with that property?
so David is contracted by the town to work on updating that zoning, fixing it. And that contract expired at the end of August or something like that.
Will expire at the end of September.
Will expire at the end of September. However, when we were together at the select board meeting, we said, oh, we haven't even worked on this yet, and we still need to do it, and it's the very next thing we're gonna do. And so he's prepared an amendment for them to extend that contract till March. So once we're through, that was gonna be the next thing that we're gonna work on.
I'll keep pushing it until we start doing it.
No, that's,
If we have
That's
agreement,
fine.
we've got 2 hours free, let's do that. 'Cause
Right.
It's,
That's fine. I think also though, to correct the record or maybe to update the
The
record,
next 2 hours.
we've heard that zoning has failed. And we don't know that zoning has failed per se. There's actually a lot happening on that property behind the scenes that's not yet gone to the DRB. Tremendous progress. Not as fast, not as obvious as any of us want. we understand that, you know, they've provided written comments about changes to the zoning, but they haven't said like, oh, we can't work with this zoning, we're out of here, it's terrible. They've said there's pieces of it that are hard to work with, they don't really work well for us. And David has that list. And the property owner has their own schedule and their own requirements, and it's not correct to ascribe all of the delay to the zoning. The zoning maybe was part of the delay at the beginning, and then a big 2 years happened that had nothing to do with Jericho. And so I think we want to enter into that saying that there's great things about that zoning that haven't yet produced benefit for the town, but we're not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. We're not going to go into the conversation thinking that we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to try to make it better. Because that's not the problem there. Okay, do we need an executive session? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Sarah, thank you. Second. Heidi, thank you. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Sabina?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.